Referee Salisbury blows his whistle to bring an end to the match, which finishes Bournemouth 0-1 Everton. The Toffees have finally picked up their first ever win at this ground at the 9th time of asking after a dominant display, handing Bournemouth their first home defeat of the season in the process. Everton were made to wait until the 78th minute before finally getting their reward though, when Alcaraz found Grealish in the Bournemouth half. The Englishman did well to shift the ball onto his right foot a few yards outside the box before launching a right-footed effort at goal, which took a cruel deflection off Diakite before nestling into the far corner. Petrovic then denied Ndiaye 5 minutes later to keep Bournemouth's hopes alive, but their inability to create anything in the final third was a consistent theme all evening. A truly ridiculous game of football comes to a close as Manchester City just about squeeze past Fulham 5-4 at Craven Cottage. City looked imposing from the early stages, and Haaland's opener in the 17th minute from a Doku cross saw him hit his 100th Premier League goal in just 111 games. Goal number 2 came 20 minutes later as the Norwegian turned provider with a lovely slotted pass through for Reinders to latch onto and dink Leno for his second goal since his August debut against Wolves. While a deft Smith Rowe header late in the opening period initially offered hope, this seemed to be extinguished by an early second-half Foden finish and a Burge own goal from a speculative Doku shot. However, Iwobi kick-started a Nigerian-inspired comeback just before the hour with his curling shot into the bottom right corner from outside the box after a poor City clearance. Similar to his countryman, Chukwueze added further drama with a driven 72nd minute half volley from yet more shoddy defending. He then mirrored this effort in the 78th from the opposite side as Donnarumma flapped to ask serious questions of Pep's title contenders. That said, after seeing this one out with the help of a last-ditch Gvardiol goal line clearance, City survive having played above their 2.21 expected goals. They now go 2 points from table-topping Arsenal, who have a game in hand. This valiant Fulham side pulled out a performance fit to inspire them for the rest of the season. Alas, despite outperforming 0.9 expected goals, they remain in 15th for now.
There's the full-time whistle as Christian Romero inspires Tottenham Hotspur to escape from St James's Park with a point, securing a sensational 2-2 draw against Newcastle United. A goalless first 45 minutes now seems a long time ago, as the second period on Tyneside brought chances, goals and drama aplenty. Guimaraes finally broke the deadlock via a well-timed strike from Gordon's cross and Waltemade's cutback. 7 minutes later though, Spurs would equalise with their very first shot on target, and Romero's inch-perfect glancing header into the bottom corner would cue a spectacular end to the game. VAR was called upon just 4 minutes after Romero's goal when Bentancourt dragged Burn down in the box and Gordon converted the resultant penalty to seemingly secure a deserved 3 points for Newcastle. However, Tottenham's captain had other ideas and Romero rose once again to lift his side up off the canvas, finding the far corner with an unbelievable overhead kick to make it 2-2 at the death. That spectacular end-to-end draw means it's as you were for Newcastle, who remain 13th in the Premier League table, but the point does take Spurs up above Brentford to 11th after Romero's 2 game-saving interventions. Arsenal go 5 points clear in the Premier League once more after a 2-0 win at home against Brentford. A first-half goal from Marino inside 11 minutes set the Gunners on their way, but it was Brentford who emerged after the break with greater purpose. They racked up 8 corners across the match and applied periods of pressure, yet failed to create any major chances, even after turning to the bench and introducing Thiago, the league's second highest scorer, who couldn't provide the desired impact. Arsenal had a late opportunity through Calafiori, which Keller has saved, before denying Saka's follow-up. But just moments later, in the 91st minute, he couldn't stop Saka's next effort as it looped over him and over the line. The Emirates erupted as Arsenal sealed all 3 points. Arteta's side created 1.72 expected goals compared to Brentford's 0.34 expected goals, underlining how Andra's players failed to find that all-important goal while the game remained at 1-0. Arsenal are now unbeaten in their last 18 matches in all competitions and sit 5 points clear of the chasing pack. Brentford dropped to 13th and continue to struggle on the road. Arsenal now travel to face one of the league's most informed teams, Aston Villa, in a blockbuster meeting, while Brentford return to North London to take on Tottenham Hotspur in another derby. Spectacularly posting their 6th straight win, Aston Villa edge a 7-goal thriller. Despite losing their goalkeeper in the warm-up and going 2 goals down, Villa stormed back to beat Brighton 4-3 at the Amex, where the hosts were left stunned by their visitors' revival. The Seagulls were apparently cruising to victory via Van Heck's opener and a Torres own goal, but Watkins then continued his impressive record against Brighton to pull the away side level. His brace squared matters by the break, and Emery's men then stepped up a gear after halftime. Onana's towering header put them in front before Malin scored a 4th shortly after leaving the bench. Of course, there was still time for a fitting finale, as Van Heck's gloriously struck 2nd goal set up a tense finish. Aided by a late save from stand-in stopper Bizot, who had badly erred for Brighton's opener, Villa ultimately held on and moved, at least momentarily, up to 3rd in the Premier League table. Their final expected goals of 2.76 compared to 1.7 for the hosts suggest they were deserved winners in the end. There's little time to bask in any glory though, as Villa must host league leaders Arsenal at the weekend, when Brighton will look to bounce back by beating West Ham at home. The full-time whistle blows at Turf Moor as Crystal Palace defeat Burnley 1-0 to heap more pressure on Scott Parker. The visitors started the game strong and should have opened the scoring when Mateta saw his close-range strike parried away by Dubravka. Minutes later, Anthony almost found the roof of the net, but his effort was tipped over the crossbar by Henderson. The Eagles broke the deadlock in the 44th minute when Guehi's long pass was met by Muniz at the far post, who nestled a header into the bottom left corner. Mateta saw a 6-yard attempt in the second half saved by Dubravka before Larsson saw his close-range thunderbolt parried onto the woodwork by Henderson. The Clarets thought they had equalised in second-half stoppage time, but Broge's attempt was cleared off the line by Richards. The hosts created 11 shots with 4 on target, whereas the visitors generated 3 shots on target. Palace move up to 5th in the Premier League table, while Burnley remain 19th after suffering a 5th consecutive league defeat. Sean Dyche's Nottingham Forest emerged victorious thanks to a battling 1-0 win away at rock-bottom Wolves. In a first half devoid of any real chances, the only excitement came via Igor Jesus' disallowed goal, as Ndoye was ruled offside and interfering with play when the Brazilian's header flashed past Johnston. The second half followed a similarly scrappy pattern to the first, and it was Jesus who struck again on 72 minutes, as he bravely headed home a first-ever Premier League goal, with Johnston left flapping at a cross. It was a night for grit over attacking style, as both teams ended on an expected goals of 0.7, but Forest just about edged the result. Up next for Wolves is home tie with Manchester United on December 8, as Forest head to Everton 2 days before. Leeds desperately needed a win and emphatically answered their critics with a hard-fought 3-1 victory over Chelsea at Ellen Road to move out of the relegation zone. The Blues couldn't cope with Leeds' intensity and fell 2 goals behind in the first half, thanks to Bijal's header and Tanaka's powerful strike. Neto smashed in from close range at the beginning of the second half to briefly provide Chelsea with some hope, but this was extinguished by Calvert-Lewin, who pounced on a defensive mistake from Tosin to tap into an empty net.
The hosts recorded a 17 shots, while from 71.4% possession, Chelsea managed just 2 shots on target. This sobering result is a reality check for Chelsea, who drop to 4th, while Leeds leapfrog West Ham United and move up to 17th, 3 points clear of the relegation zone, to end a run of 4 successive defeats. Later this week in the Premier League, Leeds host Liverpool in Yorkshire, while Chelsea travel to the Vitality Stadium to face Bournemouth. It's all over at Anfield as Liverpool battle back in the closing stages to secure a 1-1 draw with Sunderland. Sunderland produced most of their expected goals before well into the second half. They went ahead when Talby scored. Liverpool looked to reply, and it took a stroke of luck to get the Reds back on level terms. Wirtz fired a deflected shot into the back of the net to equalize late in the game, an own goal by Mukiel. Liverpool registered higher expected goals overall, piling on the pressure before full time, but both sides spurned late chances to win. Both sides were forced to settle for a point, and Liverpool remain in the bottom half of the Premier League table after their return to winning ways proved short-lived, while Sunderland were happy to stay in a comfortable mid-table position. There's more Old Trafford frustration for Manchester United as the hosts fritter away a lead to draw 1-1 with Premier League strugglers West Ham. Spurning their chance to go 5th, United concede a late goal and have to settle for 1 point despite being the better team for most of the match. Getting the Hammers out of jail, Magasa's 83rd minute strike cancelled out Dalot's coolly taken opener, which had seemed to be the decisive moment. Undoubtedly, with a final XG of 1.56 to their visitors' modest 0.77, United surely should have come out on top. Neither side will be satisfied, as Amorim and co are crestfallen after failing to secure maximum points, while Nuno's men stay inside the drop zone. With little time to reflect, Man United will go again next Monday when they visit rock-bottom Wolves at Molineux. Meanwhile, West Ham are away to Brighton on Sunday.